Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Jeremy Corbyn whips up Remainer rebel who are threatening to cripple 32 cities today by occupying bridges, and tells them they're right to take to the streets. And this is all about proroguing Parliament. It's basically Boris Johnson saying, well, we've had this session in Parliament for a hell of a long time. Brexit is the will of the people. It hasn't been carried through. If this is the only way to let this happen, because otherwise we're going to face hell in this country and people are going to be disillusioned with democracy actually working, and the consequences of that are too bad to consider, then he's going to have to prorogue the Parliament in order to get Brexit to happen. Let's read on. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn calls on his supporters to take to the streets. He says there was public outrage at Prime Minister Boris Johnson shutting down democracy. So he's not shutting down democracy, he's trying to actually get it to work, and the public outrage is minimal, and it's mainly just from echo chambers. Widespread protests are planned in cities including Brighton and Manchester. Unfortunately, I'm not in Manchester at the moment, I'm away for the weekend. Can't cover that. Left-wing momentum calls on members to occupy bridges and blockade roads. Yes, they also go down to say by any means necessary, and just blocking the Queen's Highway, any road, is also a criminal offence, normally by fine and not the penalty, unless it is aggravated. So, Jeremy Corbyn last night declared activists were right to take to the streets over the suspension of Parliament, as thousands of protesters were set up to disrupt dozens of cities today. And there's a great example of this from Extinction Rebellion, where there was a lady who was responsible for blocking roads, and realised later, she was sort of through a radio call-in show, that somebody who she blocked from getting to where they wanted to go was somebody who was trying to get to the hospital to be with their mother for their last moments before they died, but due to the delay, their mother died before they could get there, or could have been their father. It was a parent, I'm sure. And the lady on the radio show was in tears, but still trying to reason that it was worthwhile her blocking the roads in order to push this wider narrative and not caring for the individual. It's the same sort of thing here. Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell, the communist, and Dawn Butler, Labour's equality spokesman. Hang on, shouldn't it be spokeswoman? And equality of outcome, yeah. However you define equality, really, and then which groups are you going to pick? Because how much micromanaging are you going to do to define where the equality of outcome is? It's ridiculous. It's impossible. The amount of bureaucracy you need is not feasible at all. Anyway, they will take part in the largest rally against Boris Johnson's decision in London. Yes. You try to go for I suppose you've got to go for a weekend protest, haven't you? Because if you do it on a weekday, the pro-Brexit people are actually working. Meanwhile, left-wing group Momentum is calling on its members to occupy bridges and blockade roads in conjunction with the so-called Stop the Coup protests. What coup? Anyway, let's read on, just because the hypocrisy is ridiculous. It's palpable. To say more than 80 demonstrations over the next week. Yes, meanwhile, pro-Brexit people are working. So let's read a John McDonnell quote. As elected Labour MPs across the country represent their constituents by joining in these protests, I urge other MPs to think of their constituents whose jobs and livelihoods will be put at risk in a no-deal Brexit. Right. Well, I would say firstly, life isn't all about the money, and secondly, bear in mind that people get their enjoyment and feeling of fulfillment in life from following their passion and doing the things that are difficult but necessary. It's carrying the weight and making it work. Life is suffering. That's an inescapable reality of life, and therefore you've got to do something to make the suffering worthwhile. Laura Parker, Momentum's national coordinator, said, "We have a barely elected millionaire Prime Minister, well done, millionaire, who is happy to exploit a loophole in our flawed democracy to force through a Trump-first no-deal Brexit." Now, flawed democracy, she means, of course, that there is a democracy and it isn't just a communist utopia yet. Obviously, you need socialism first, and it's never going to get to communism, and it's just going to resort to breadlines, which I know Bernie's had to say it's a good thing, but I really don't. They say he is part of the same tiny privileged elite which has been hoarding power at the top and eroding our democracy for decades. If you're going to say it's different laws for different people, because you're saying that you get an exemption for your gender, or your race, or your ethnicity, or your culture, or your religion, then yeah, fair enough, and I'm against the Conservatives for that as well. But funnily enough, that's one of the things that you guys agree on. There are thousands of people from all over the UK and across the political spectrum who will protest to stop Johnson closing the doors on our democracy. He isn't a tool, he's trying to make democracy happen. No one voted for this. 17.4 million. And it's clear we need to urgently redesign our system to rebalance power away from the top. Hilarious. Hilarious. It's ridiculous. It's not based on principles at all. It's just tribal. When they're doing it, it's bad. When we're doing it, it's great, because we're the benevolent dictator, and we know exactly what everybody should be doing all the time. No chance. Liar. Yesterday, Baroness Chakrabarti, the Shadow Attorney General, vowed to use any means necessary. Any means necessary. Is that incitement? Including public protest to prevent the Prime Minister leaving the EU without a withdrawal agreement. If they try any more of this stuff, we will use any means necessary to prevent this undemocratic behaviour. It is democratic. We've had the vote, and we didn't leave 2 years after the vote. So it's already gone over. In that case, the only way to make it happen is to prorogue Parliament. If you'd done your job sooner, this wouldn't be happening. But you can't be trusted. It's good to take power away from the top then, isn't it? Let's just prorogue Parliament. I really hope the left go on strike, because they're not providing anything worthwhile at all. So maybe a while ago, if unions got together and there's something worthwhile like coal or steel, for example. I think that's 1926, I believe, decades ago. But these days, it's like, oh no, we're not going to get shit articles. How will we ever survive? Please do. Please go to St. Hilda, and we'll get on with life and enjoy it. It's like after the Second World War with Japan, that America tried to limit Japanese growth by saying, okay, well, the maximum tax rate you can have is 10%. And the Japanese bureaucracy is going, what the hell, how are we going to be able to grow? This is impossible. Businesses are going, 10%? Hell yeah, we'll make stuff happen. And of course the people are like, yeah, we can actually spend more money. And that's when the golden years happened, because the max tax was 10%. Brilliant. Yes, less power from the top, I agree. They say they're behaving in a way that is unworthy of a UK government. Kind of agree, but for different reasons. They say ex-aide wants chaos on the street. It just goes to, say, Laura Parker, hard left. She's a hypocrite because she's with a capitalist husband. Basically, she just wants money. But then again, maybe it's not hypocritical, because that's what socialists want. They want to spend the money of the rich people, not realising that they would then want to leave. And she doesn't live with her husband anyway, but I won't comment on that. Labour MP Clive Lewis also called for people to support the Stop the Coup protests. I love how they try to manipulate words to make it sound more affable. They're hoping for hundreds of thousands of people. And this was from Michael Chesham, Momentum's national organiser, who said, the suffragettes burnt down the home of David Lloyd George, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I'm sure that was disruptive for him. Yeah, it was. I'm glad you can admit that the suffragettes were domestic terrorists, and the only ones we've given into. And that was a shit decision as far as I'm concerned. But, okay. Surely somebody who has property, somebody who has skin in the game, somebody who's going to risk their lives for their country because they're going to be taken up by the draft. Not somebody who's just going to vote for a bigger welfare state and therefore the destruction of the country. That's why single women tend to be left-leaning, married women tend to be conservative, because then they're with somebody who's actually making money and they want lower taxes. Funny that. People vote in their own best interests. Yes. Joe Cox Foundation said the warn that anger over Brexit should not spill over into something more dangerous. The Kennel Club and Dogs Trust, who organised the Westminster Dog of the Year competition, have cancelled it, said this is due to concerns about the increase in protests around Parliament. Ensuring the safety of the dogs and the MPs taking part is absolute priority. Yes, so they're also worried because we know that left-wingers tend to be more violent, and because they're encouraged openly, actively by the mainstream media, and get away with it by the police, even though apparently we have a conservative government, so work that one out yourself. Anyway, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.